Good morning to you all and welcome. My name is Veronica. I'm so glad you can be here with us today as we open our 6th presentation in our 12-week series where we want to answer some of the basic questions of life. If you missed any of our previous sessions, please see details in the description below. Today I would like to introduce Charles, who will be answering the question, am I alone? So I hope and pray you can understand God's interest in your life today.
Good morning. Glad you could join me again today. I don't know about you, but this last year has been hard. Really hard. I mean, this last year would have been hard enough with people I know already fighting cancer and other more normal problems. But this last year has been anything but normal. This week, I lost a second good friend to COVID. And I've had at least a dozen friends spend time in hospital, if not in intensive care over the last year. And that besides the countless others I know who have had it and stayed home. And that is only those who are directly affected. I have friends who haven't been called into work for a year, and they still don't know if they're going to have a job to go back to. I have friends who were let go from their work. And even more than that, I have friends, many friends, who work as doctors, nurses, as carers, who have never had to work so hard and under so much pressure continuously for so long in their lives. Unfortunately, for most of us, the current situation with COVID-19 isn't even where our problems started. I mean, over the last couple of weeks, one of the bigger underlying social problems has been back in the headlines as the government published the Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities report. I mean, it's 258 pages explaining the UK is no longer a racist country. After reading an article about it on the BBC, I was so pleased to hear about the progress that has been made. That pleasure lasted about 10 seconds before my mind cranked back into gear. I must have been having a very slow day, because I began to consider how different what I had just read was compared to the current experiences of so many of my friends who are either new immigrants or second or more generation British citizens. That is a fight that has been going on for many years. There was a famous speech in 1964 as part of the American Civil Rights Movement by a lady named Fannie Lou Hamer. On that day she said, "I am sick and tired of being sick and tired." Was what she fought against resolved, or are people still having to fight for the same thing today? Just in the last couple of weeks, besides finding out about my good friend who died from COVID, several other people I know well have been bereaved due to a variety of different problems. A few others have received very bad news from their doctors. I mean, it just builds up and up and up. And looking at all of that, I can look at my own position. As I've told you before, I'm an engineer. I have been as busy as ever throughout lockdown, with some time spent in the factory, but mostly at home. Now, I am not someone who was built for remote working, and I am more stressed now than I can ever remember being at any point in my life. These last few weeks adding this project into my workload, especially with the light at the end of the tunnel for the lockdown on one hand, but then the worldwide surge in infections on the other, it's just tearing away what fragments of good mental health I had left. I cried this week when I heard my friend had passed away, which isn't something that I do very often. Yes, as a Christian, as someone who claims to have a direct connection with the same God who created the universe, I struggle and I unravel. I can feel that I am at the end of my tether. The emotional weight of everything going on in this world crushes me. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. There are so many fights going on in people's lives today, and I know you have at least one battle in your life right now. I would even go so far as to suggest you are probably just as sick and tired of being sick and tired as I am. So I ask the question, am I alone? Are you? In the middle of all of these problems, does God even care what happens in my life? Does he care about your life? Or is he just interested in the long term, in heaven, in giving us a future at some later date? And more to the point, even if he does care, does he do anything about it? Does being a Christian have any relevance to my daily struggles? We've talked before about how the Bible is full of stories of people just like you and me, so I'm going to use one of those stories. Fairly early on in the Bible, in the book of Deuteronomy, we see God's people arriving in the land which today we call Israel. Back then, it was called Canaan, and God had promised that land to his people some 500 years before. The people who lived there had 500 years to change their ways, and there is a record of a few who did, but not many. So, instead of being welcomed as God's people, the residents, for the most part, they prepared for battle. The man in charge, Moses, he knew he was going to die soon, so he was passing on the leadership to a man named Joshua, who was going to take over. And in Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 7 and 8, you have Moses' opening statement of the final handover speech. In verse 7, then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and courageous, for you shall go with this people into the land that the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall put them in possession of it. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. After 40 years looking after this movable city of people since leaving Egypt, that was Moses' biggest lesson that he could pass on to the next generation of leaders. Don't worry, you have nothing to fear. It is God who is going out first. He is the one who is stepping into the scary bits ahead of me. He is the one who is all ready to hold my hand at any point along the way where I need him. Now, God is bigger and more complex than our tiny little heads can comprehend, so we have to use metaphors to describe how he works. But Father is one of the most common that is used in the Bible. I remember as a kid what it was like walking somewhere that was dark and scary, but holding on to my dad's hand or my granddad's hand and not feeling so scared anymore. Just knowing that he was there was more than enough for little old me. That closeness or presence is one of the biggest and most repeated promises in the Bible. That promise to the Israelites, well over 2,500 years ago, wasn't just given to them. And it isn't just the Father who promises this, but also the Son, Jesus. One of the last things he said before finishing his time on earth is written down in Matthew chapter 28, verses 19 and 20. He gave his followers instructions to tell the whole world about him, to teach them, to help them to live the lives that God created us for. And then he gave them the promise, I am with you always to the end of the age. Time is still ticking the last time I checked, so his promise is still in force. He promises to be with you and me today. You see, God is very interested in what is going on today. Something like 150,000 people die every single day on this planet, and he knows each one of them by name. He knows everything about them, and he wants each of them to have known him and loved him in their lives. Last week, Owen shared with us what our purpose in life has to be: to carry out the instructions that Jesus gave and show and tell and live out God's love to this world. Now that was true 2,000 years ago on a hillside in the Middle East, and it's true for you and me in Scotland today. The best bit is that he has promised to be with us as we do that. Now I know the idea of presence can be a bit weird, because God is not physically next to me like my dad was. So how can I know if he is there or not? Should I expect supernatural signs and wonders? Should I expect to hear an audible voice? Should I expect dreams and visions? Should I expect a warm, fuzzy feeling inside? Well, occasionally, all of the above. more commonly, none of the above. There is no quick test to see if God is there or not. God deals principally with the long term, and for us that means He is interested not in a superficial and passing experience with us, but a deep relationship. It has taken me 15 years of communication to be at the depth of relationship I have with my wife. And the more we communicate, the deeper that relationship gets. God wants the same from you and me. Our relationship with God begins with open and free communication. That two-way conversation happens in many ways, but the main way for us to communicate to God is through something called prayer. In a book called Steps to Christ, there is my favourite quote that defines what prayer is. The author wrote, "Prayer is the opening of the heart to God as to a friend." It's a conversation with someone who knows you better than any of your friends or family do. I don't know if you have ever tried praying before, but you don't need to be in a special building, you don't need to be in a special place. There are no magic words to say. You can just tell God what is on your mind at any time of the day, in any situation. Are you hurting? Well, tell Him about it. Do you want to understand why something bad has happened in your life? Ask Him. Do you doubt that He even exists? Well, let Him know that in your own words. God will answer everyone who searches for Him honestly. The answers aren't always immediate, and they aren't always the answers you want to hear, but He always answers at the right time. You might hear a voice or feel a strong impression, or He might speak through someone else, often without them having any idea of it. You might have a dream or see a bird flying in the sky and understand what's going on. God might even speak to you through a YouTube video. He can talk to us in one of hundreds of ways. Probably His most used, though, is this: the words He inspired men like you and me to write in the Bible. On the pages of this book, God has spoken to me much more than in any other way in my life. And with time, you will come to recognize His voice through all these different means, and you learn to pay attention when He's speaking. It is because of the words of love that I have heard God speak to me from these pages that I know that my mental health won't ever disappear completely. It's because of what God has told me here that even though I am cut up about losing my friend this week, even though I know how hard this period is going to be on his wife and his young sons who have been left behind, I have hope that we will meet again in much better circumstances than we find ourselves in here. God doesn't always use miracles, but He is always there with us. And we can often be most sure of that when in the middle of some of the darkest moments in our lives. God is right here with me, and I know His voice is comforting me, encouraging me, picking me up and giving me the strength to keep moving forward. I don't have to fear anymore because He will not leave me or forsake me. If He is my Father, that means I am His child. And as I walk through this dark earth, I know I am not alone.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Your love has called my name. I've been born again walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God.
I heard a story once of a little girl who had just visited a big old cathedral with beautiful stained glass windows telling the stories of Bible saints. A few days later, she was asked to define what a saint is. She thought carefully for a moment and answered, "A saint is someone who the light shines through." When we spend time with God, sharing our hearts with Him and listening to His answers, we too become filled with light, and that shines out to those around us. You can start small, just reading a little bit of the Bible at a time and discussing what you read with God and with those around you. If you've never read the Bible before, I would suggest starting with the book of Mark, which tells part of the story of Jesus' life on earth. I personally am currently following a reading plan I found online, which allows me to read the whole Bible in a year for only 15 or 20 minutes a day and only 5 days a week. I cannot encourage you enough to start a conversation with God today. He is waiting for you. Listen to God. Tell Him what's on your heart, and you will never be alone. You will know that He is with you in the middle of the problems you are facing today. He will help you to see the way forward, one step at a time, and He will give you strength to keep going that you would never have believed possible. Will you pray with me now? Dear Father, we thank You for the freedom we have to talk to You, to have You close to us, to feel Your presence, to know Your action in our lives, to see You leading us, to see You walking in front of us on the way that we're going. We thank You that we have that opportunity, and we take that opportunity now. We come to You and we want to begin that conversation. We want to strengthen that conversation, to share our thoughts and our feelings with You, our worries and our cares, and to listen to Your answer, to find Your voice in the Bible, to find it in nature, to find it in people around us, to find it in our day-to-day experience as we move around this planet, that you talk to us, and that in all of these things we can hear Your love for us. We thank You and we ask You to be with us, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
And for more information on today's presentation, as well as a PDF summary, please see details in the description below. Feel free to get in touch with us through the chat boxes or the link below, and we can chat more about anything you've seen today. On the evening of the 24th of April, we will be hosting another live, more interactive session, so please keep watching for more details on that. But in the meantime, join us next week when Jessica will be looking at answering the question, how do I find the right path? So please subscribe to this channel, click like, comment and share so this message can reach more of those looking for hope. Take care.